Let's get started for the afternoon. Welcome to a webinar or workshop on the 3 W's to successful BI for project management presented by Innovative E. So we're gonna go through a lot of stuff today. It's gonna be fun, exciting, and hopefully everyone can see my screen. But before we get started, I wanna go over a couple housekeeping things. If you're new to GoToWebinar, a couple things to keep in mind here. We're gonna be tracking our questions in the questions and comments and Q&A and everything we're gonna be doing in the questions tab. You'll see responses down there from either myself or other folks on the call here. And we are recording today's presentation, and it will be provided at the end, so everyone has a place to go back to later on. So we have some general copyright stuff just up there. And this meeting's for you guys. So what we're trying to do here is keep it interactive. So any questions, comments, concerns, anything you have, put them in the Q&A tab, and people will be monitoring them to answer questions. And like I said before, it's gonna be informative, and we're gonna do some under the hood stuff. So we're gonna get a little bit into the nuts and bolts of business intelligence and how it pertains to project management. So we're gonna get some architecture and some tools discussion as well. And if you have any questions, make sure we get them answered to you, or we'll plan to follow up with you so you get some questions, you get those answered later at a later date. So let's start off with some interactivity right off the bat here. So a couple questions for our audience here. What does BI mean in your organization? And what do you want to learn here today with this session and workshop? Keep in mind, keep it contextual is totally fine. What does it mean to you? I know there's a lot of organizations out there that we've come across, you've probably worked at, that you have BI talking about dashboards and fun reports and everything. But what does it mean directly for your organization? So if you have a few minutes, go ahead and put your comments and answers to that in the questions tab. This will not be a question we respond to, just a understanding of where you're at. So I'll give you about 30 seconds here or so to kind of answer that. And then we'll get into talking about more specifically what it is, deal with the common understanding and possibly misconceptions of what's out there and what utilized. Do we have any answers, questions, or comments to this? Real-time dashboard to see online what's happening. It's good. That's real good. The key word there, real-time. It's a powerful statement there. So let's get going into the fun stuff then. If anybody else has some stuff on there, please bring it up, and we'll come back to it as well. So today, I'm your presenter. My name is Matt Freilich. I'm the Vice President of PPM and BI within Innovative E. I've been working with Project and Project Online for the better part of a decade, and I have my project management professional certification as well. And then more specifically as it relates to today is my my MBA has a concentration within business intelligence. This is something that I find very exciting for myself. I like to see what you can do with lots of data, and we're getting lots of responses in there. That's good, good. View as means telling a better story of operations using disparate data sources in an integrated manner. That's good, that's real good. So one thing that we at Innovative E, like to talk about is amazing PM. So we deliver continuously amazing project management experience. Now there's a little bit of jest around that. What is that? How can you have an amazing project management experience? It's kind of a necessary thing to get done to make sure things stay on track, but it's all about having it be pleasant and not feel overbearing. And when we deliver that, it makes it an amazing experience. And we can do that by several different things. And today we're going to focus on how BI is going there. Edison 365 projects will be some stuff we'll be talking about in here. It's add-on products that go and help deliver BI in a quick fashion. So let's get here right to the definition of what is BI. So in its simplest sense, business intelligence is a technology-driven process of analyzing data and presenting actionable information to help end users making informed decisions. It's interesting right there, because I know a lot of folks think of BI as pretty pictures, exciting dashboards and everything, but unless that information there is actionable, we don't have anything. That's not really getting to this part of presenting actionable information and making informed decisions. So one of the things for Project Online here that we're going to get in just a quick little show here that shows interesting information about projects right here. So this is a Project Online content, Power BI content pack. This is just out of the box information. You can kind of hover over all this information. It's interactive, it's right there. You can start exploring data in a meaningful way to make informed decisions about what's going on. Now, this might not fit every organization straight out of the box, so you can start to customize. So we're going to come back and take a look at this in a few minutes, but I wanted to kind of give everyone a little show of what is out there right out of the box if you haven't seen it before. So one of the things we like to do at Innovative E is drive PPM value. In this case, we're going to talk about BI value and how it relates to PPM. And that is done by transparency times adoption. And in this case, we're talking about transparency, meaning all the data being available to people, and adoption, meaning people are actually putting good data in. I'm sure everyone's heard the statement, garbage in is garbage out. It's absolutely true. Can't do anything actionable with just junk data. So there's two considerations to this. There's the top down and the bottom up. Top down meaning, what do your executives want to see out of your PPM system, and what do they need in terms of BI and reporting? So you have to appease those folks. But also bottom up, there's a lot of project managers and a lot of other folks, team members, that need to get information out of the system to be able to make their own decisions in their spaces of influence. So you got to take care of that as well. And you have to balance them both to ensure that everybody gets what they need out of a PPM solution. So we're going to kind of move on into why is it needed with project management. So I know everybody has had to have worked somewhere where they've hand-rolled some status reports, some dashboards, some slide presentations for a big meeting. Telling that story, it's hard, right? It's hard to tell that story when and not be biased and all. You want to make sure you're not presented in a light that makes you look like you've done something wrong. And this is one of the things that I think people trip over when you talk about BI in relation to project management, because you are reporting status and health and key indicators about your project out. You're pushing that out for the world to see, shining a big light spotlight on what's going on. And if it's not green, if it's not good, there's the fear that you're going to get in trouble for it. And that's not what this should be used for. This should be used for skipping over the second bullet there to the third, trying to get the correct amount of resources and energy spent on managing those exceptions, not putting everybody in a defensive position, making them feel like they haven't done their job. Sometimes stuff just doesn't work right. Some things just come out of nowhere and don't go to plan. But if we're not able to all jump in as a collective team and work together to solve those, then we are doing something wrong. We're doing something wrong as an organization. We're doing something wrong as individuals, and we're doing something wrong collectively. So why is that important? Well, we need to make sure that we're delivering that information up, bringing that BI, so we can catch those things before they go completely off the rails. And that is what should come out of this. This is what we should be getting out of this information. Now, other nice thing about these types of things, if it's good and you can manage to exceptions, you're increasing the productivity and decreasing the effort spent and time spent doing your status meetings, your pony shows about what's going on with your project, so on and so forth. That is critical. So who needs it? Everybody. Without a doubt, will always say executives need to see reports. They need to see dashboards. They need to see the business intelligence, because that's their only view into the project world. But that's true. It's 100% true. But you also have everybody else, every other player in the whole project management chain that needs information out of the system to be able to make good decisions or offer suggestions on how to change. So, like I said, your executive stakeholders, no-brainers. Project managers, okay, you have some status reports. They need to see how things are tracking, what's going good, what's going bad. Those are all important aspects. Resource managers, how well are my resources staffed? Do I have places that I can fill? Do I need to get more resources? Do I need to go and chase? Do I hire people? Am I looking forward and finding that I am going to run out of staff here in the next 6 months? Portfolio managers. The one that I find interesting up there is team members. What do team members need to see out of this? Well, they're not looking at the dashboards. They may look at some indicators just to see how the company is performing, how the overall project management's performing. But myself as a team member, I'd want to know how's the project I'm working on doing? How's my work impacting others? How's John's work, who isn't here today because he's sick or broke his leg, can't be working? How's his not being able to work affecting others? And what can I do as a resource, as a team member, to help out? If I can actually get at that information to make some suggestions to my project manager, maybe I can actually do something about that. What load can I pick up? What's fallen behind? What other things can I do to be a productive person on the team to make it successful? That's your who. That's key. So what are some problems that we solve with BI in project management? Risk assessment, yeah, pretty easy, straightforward. Resource allocation, I mentioned that before. Project selection, okay, which projects get the best bang for our buck? Which one should we select? Which one should we select? It's pretty reasonable. Status reporting, also reasonable. Project successfulness, that one's interesting. Continuous improvement and say effort estimation, also interesting. This gets to some of the real-time information here. So what if there was a world where you had enough data, you had your project managers, your team members, they're all putting in good actuals, where I estimated 12 hours, I put in 8, and it's done. I'm 33% under. What if there was a world where you had data like that for 3 years? What could you do with that? Do a lot. We could determine before the project starts, what's the percentage chance that you're going to be on time with this project, based on the schedule you have, based on past performance of other projects, based on past tasks and information, based on the type of resources and the complexity of the project. You can start to figure that out. Of course, there's other things out there, Monte Carlo simulation, where you can run that on a project and kind of figure out where your holes might be, but that's just going off of your project, right? It's not going off of dozens and dozens of past performance projects from using lessons learned and how to perform better. And then going into that continuous improvement of, we're constantly 20% off, 30% off. Well, instead of planning to constantly be 20 or 30% off, let's see if we can make a difference and really analyze why. These are the problems that if you have enough data and the right information presented in a fashion that can be consumed, business intelligence can solve. I mean, it's no different than your Amazon, right? It tells you exactly what other people like you are searching for as well. They just have it at a transactional level. We're talking about it at a project level, which lasts a lot longer than a single transaction. So tools. Find this to be an interesting conversation, just generally speaking. I'm sure everyone's familiar with SQL Server reporting services. It's been around for a while. Have things like Microsoft Excel. People have done a lot of charting and graphing visualizations with Excel and with SSRS. Power BI, if you're not familiar with that, it's a tool from Microsoft. Tableau, also a powerful tool. It's not about the tool, it's about trying to build the complete business intelligence solution and package for your organization. And a lot of folks that we've run into will try to pick one tool, and one tool solves all things. That's not, it doesn't work. And this is a bad analogy, I'm going to use it, but you have a hammer, not everything is a nail to hit with a hammer. You need a different tool sometimes. Sometimes you need a screwdriver. Sometimes you need a wrench. You need to have the right tool to solve it. You need to have the right reporting medium and platform for the type of report. So you start to ask the question, who's the reporting for? Who's trying to consume the information? Is it somebody who's a CEO? Well, maybe. You're going to see a lot of CEOs that don't really want to play with the data. They just want to get the information to make their decision and know what decisions they have to make. Okay? And they want it as real time as possible. They just want to know right now. Okay? Well, and then you have some analysts. Analysts want to be able to play with the data, right? They have a different way of looking at the world. They want to start exploring solutions and possibly coming up with different ideas of ways of presenting the data. They're thinking about it there. They want an ad hoc tool. That's where like Power BI and Tableau and Excel come in great. SQL Server reporting services, you need to have a little bit of technical breadth to deal with that and make it right, but it's robust. You can add code to it. You can do a whole bunch of variety of things. And then the last thing on there, third-party Project Online add-ins. Again, we're talking about PPM, so it is Project Online, and the third-party add-ins have reporting that are built right into a BI that's right there at your fingertips, and you don't have to do anything for it. It just works. Another powerful component to make the whole package. If you have any questions on anything I've talked about thus far, please put it in there. So architecturally, looking at there's 4 different components to this for something for Microsoft Project Server, which is on-premise, Microsoft Project Online, your PPM in the cloud, and where things reside. So on-premise, you have your own servers, you have access to everything, you can do a lot more, right? You can have direct access to a database to pull queries into SSRS. You can also Power BI, Excel, whatever tools, data integrations, you can do that directly database to database. Totally cool. And you can present it in various web forms, so on and so forth. In the cloud, you start to lose some of that. The cloud doesn't have a database that you have access to. It has OData feeds, right? So you have open data feeds that are certain protocol, but when you're talking about time phase data, assignment time phase data, you're talking about a lot of data. And if you try to pull it all at once, you start to get performance problems. So you want to be able to do something a little bit different. One of the add-on products that we'll go through a little bit more in detail, Edison 365 projects, or what you see up there is PS Plus, has an application that every single time you're capturing, every time an event happens on your project online, anytime you publish a project, anytime you do anything, it will capture the data, pull it down into a database, so then you can go back to your on-premise solution and being able to have that availability. And then from there, you have a whole bunch of different options. You can start using SSRS again. You can still use Excel. You can use Excel through OData. You can use Tableau. You can use Power BI. You can use all those things and get back to the presentation layer and how to interact with it like you used to. So we'll talk about a couple of these things and why each one has its value. So we're going to jump into the more exciting part about this, as opposed to just watching some slideware. We're going to get into some of the demos and showing you what's out there, what can be done, what we like, what we don't like type deal. And I'm going to cover everything. I'm talking very unbiasedly about a particular product or anything. It's just what is there and making you more aware to what you can use for PPM. So I'm going to start with a couple add-ins. So again, Edison 365 projects. We talked about risk analysis. Well, I don't know if anybody's seen this before or seen something like this before, but this is a way to visually present the risks according to the risk exposure across a portfolio, across a program, or just for an individual project. You can select anything you want to select here. You can create this and you can put it out there. Now, the nice thing about this is it is an application in and of itself, so I can interact with it a little bit more fluidly than maybe a static report would allow me to do. So it's popping up windows. If I click on any of those links, it'll take me directly to a project, take me directly to a risk, something to go work with. And if you have Skype for Business, you can actually interact with them. So this is an application, but it has a really powerful way to deal with reporting. And of course, everyone's going to look up in this red. That's where the risks that are going to be the most detrimental to the project are happening. Like I said, business intelligence is not just for executives. Governance. Are my project managers doing the jobs they're supposed to be doing? Are they putting in their weekly updates? Do they have at least a risk and an issue tracked on their project? I don't know a project that doesn't have a risk and an issue, at least one that's ever happened on their project. Are they baselining properly? All these things to give you, not to go beat people up, not to chase people down and say they're not doing their jobs, to coach them because maybe they're not seeing all the right components. Maybe they're not aware of everything. This gives you an at a glance to be able to figure out which projects are missing those steps. And just by having all done, you have green, good. We can move on. Manage the exceptions. Go chase down the things that are not working right. Now we'll talk about up here. So this is a status report. Again, it's out of Edison 365 projects. Application generates a report for you. Out of the box, this is exactly how it looks. So you can configure it, you can change fields, you can change what's displayed on here, colors, so on and so forth. But what you're getting here is status report, probably akin to about half the things you've ever done, maybe slightly looking a little different, maybe information organized a little different, but it's pulling data from your project, but giving the project manager the ability to alter what is on there, select what should show up and what shouldn't show up, giving the freedom to do that, but pulling the information from the project so it is static, it is not wrought with human error. It can be changed, can be altered. So you can put your project description in there. You can put like a risk and issue summary. Why are we having issues? What are my overall summary, my overview of risk and issues? What changes are going on? What are my key upcoming key tasks to be completed for this month? And a little Gantt chart so it has a visualization. And then your highlighted risks and issues. So you can bubble all the information up to the top that's necessary for your project to be reported on. And it can be PDF'd, printed, and saved off and published. So it has, again, it's an application. It has a bunch of powerful information into it, but it works out of the box. Again, that's the third-party apps and everything. So what are some other things? Well, let's go back to that dashboard up here. Power BI. This is great, right? This is the Power BI content back from Microsoft. So this is just straight up out of the box. You set it all up. This is what you get. It does require you to be using Power BI, but it's all interactive, right? So you can share this out with you. It says shared with me. I can click on any one of these things. I can click on the portfolio overview, load my data in. So now it shows me number of projects, cost variance, project work. And then if this doesn't completely fit, you start to tweak it. But you have something some place to start from. I can't tell you how many times I've seen folks start from a blank piece of paper and try to build up. It's hard to do. Starting with something is way easier to start working on. So I can look at my just agile projects, for example. Look at that. I can filter down. I can interact with what I'm looking for. Uncheck it, bring all of them in. Can bring up individual projects, show me where things are at, where they are. Go back over, right? So all this stuff is like I said, super interactable. So how Power BI works is all these components in and of themselves are little individual reports, and they're placed together in a nice presentable view that would be your dashboard, and that's what's presented. So anytime you click into any one of these things, you're looking at a individual report of information, and that's how you kind of can play with it and understand what is going on. Project count. So you kind of dig into each thing. Resource availability. So now you have like a heat map built right there. So you can see all the people on the project, across all the projects, where they are, availability, capacity, and everything else associated with them. So you can kind of see it at a monthly total. You can go to department. If you had a different value there, it starts to narrow stuff down, dig in a little bit, right? Let me just look at that quarter. So you can kind of figure out what's going on, and this gives you that interactive information. Now, the thing to understand about this is pulling from OData. So this is Power BI pulling from OData. Is in order for it to work as smooth as it's working right now, it needs to work off of kind of stored data. And I don't mean, so we go back to the statement up here that says real time. Okay, real time can be subjective. And how quickly can we actually look at this information? So this thing, right now, what we're looking at here is set up to refresh itself every 6 hours. So 3 times a day, 4 times a day, it refreshes the data. So it picks up stuff. You're always looking about 6 hours in the rears. It's important to understand that. You can refresh faster, but because it's pulling time phase, it's pulling all this information, it takes longer. And the more projects, the more data you have, the longer it takes. So you want to be able to make it fast and consumable. This helps a lot. But what if I wanted to do the similar thing, but have it pull from a real database, a data source? You can do that with Power BI. You can have a direct query, and I'll show you that in a minute. You can actually pull directly from a database. The powerful from that is that you don't have to worry about, you can give the data to people without having them have to understand the data structure. They can just have a couple of views that combine the data in a meaningful way for them to be able to use. They don't have to understand all the ins and outs of the database, which if you're looking at just the OData feeds, you do. You have to understand this feed ties to that feed. You got to join them over here and do that. Don't have to do that if you have a database. So what's the other big tool out here? Let's look at that. SSRS. So this is just an example of stuff that we've done that we've written for folks. This is a little older, but this is just a quick dashboard. It's interactive. The downside of the interactivity for this is that it does load. It does rerun every single time. So if I were to click on it, it's going to load, take a couple seconds, and it will bring up everything that has an overall health of green. And you can see down there it says overall and it's green. You can see all of that, everything there. So it shows me the projects. It brings it all up. Was that so bad? No, it wasn't. But it's not as fast as Power BI. It's not as, doesn't feel as interactive because it has to feel like it has to load for a second there. It's just what it is. But you can put a lot of code behind this. You can do, the ability to do anything in SSRS is nearly limitless. This is like akin to using something like business objects. If you're on an Oracle database, I think Clarity has another solution like that too. So they all have their own heavyweight business intelligence solutions. They all work. They all do the things that they need to do, but they're all meant for different things. What this is kind of meant for is not interactivity, yes, but it's meant to be a report that would go through change control. Not that the other ones wouldn't, but because they're the skill level to work with Power BI or Tableau or Excel, the barrier to entry is a lot lower. You don't have to know a bunch of code to be able to do this. With this, you're writing direct queries, you're using stored procedures, you're putting in a whole bunch of expressions behind the scenes to make all the little ins and outs of SSRS work. So the change control on this is a lot higher. So what you end up with is a more static report or more static dashboard that people are using when they just want to click a link, go to what they want to go to, print it out, PDF, and it works. So, and that's the other thing, right? PDF is built into SSRS. PDF in like Excel, you're printing to PDF. PDF in Power BI, it's doing a screen grab effectively. So you get some limitations. It depends on what you're chasing and what the audience needs out of this. If it's something that I want to give out to be able to generate and give out to a executive and print, PDF it and send it to them, I like SSRS because I can set up a subscription, I can let it run, I can have it emailed right to them on a daily basis, whatever, real-time data, because it's talking to a database. So you get a lot of information about that. But that kind of gets you the broad spectrum of tools. So let's look at what Power BI, because it's pretty fast, pretty easy to use. We're here, completely blank, nothing to look at. That's fine. So let's get some data in here. So I'm going to do this as a direct query. So I mentioned before, Edison 365 Projects for Project Online has the ability to capture all data all the time, whenever an event triggers. And the other powerful thing is every time a project gets published or an item gets saved, it allows me to, it captures it in temporal tables. And what that actually means is it's actually saving history of everything. So now you can start to do trends and look at year over year and look at past performance and all those things that live data doesn't allow you to do unless you're capturing it and storing it off somewhere. So by itself, connecting Power BI to say a OData feed directly to Project Online, you don't have historicals. You don't have, well, that's great. What did my project look like yesterday compared to last week? Did it go up? Did it go down? That type of information. Where are we trending? You don't have that unless you have a way to capture the data in a database. So that's what the data store from Edison 365 Projects brings to the table. It allows you to do that. So since I'm doing a direct query, I could write a SQL statement right in here, but I don't want to. I don't want to deal with that right now. I just want to pick from a view. So I have all my tables. That's fine. I also have these couple of views up here. So I want to pick this one up here, utilization by resource by week. So it gives me a spreadsheet loaded up here. So I'm going to load it. Just create my connections. It's going to pull it in. And off to the side here, you can already see that these are the fields in there. So the nice thing here is I can have, because it's a database, because it's in Azure, I can connect to it from anywhere, anytime, as long as I'm on the internet. Signed in with my organizational account, so it knows that I'm part of the organization that can touch that database. I can have read access only. Great, right? So I can't affect anything, but I can pull it in. Now, the nice thing is, like I said, is you can have your SQL experts, you can have a partner, you can have whoever necessary to do this. They can develop views, because the view I just pulled up spans 5 different tables. It's not that much, but one specific thing it does is it does a many-to-many join. Many-to-many joins are difficult because there's places it can make an error, and Excel doesn't like many-to-many joins. Power BI talking to OData feeds doesn't like many-to-many joins because there's places it could put the relationship, it's not unique, so you need to have two qualifiers, and it doesn't really allow for that. So keep in mind that. So you have the SQL view that can actually do that for you. So let's make something with this. It's pretty easy. I'm gonna make a clustered bar chart here. Make it a little bigger. And we're gonna grab resource name, drag in the access data. Okay. We're gonna grab non-billable work, put in the value. We're gonna grab billable work, put in the value. And then we're gonna, actually what I'll do is, I don't wanna do this, I'll do total billable work. I'll do this plus my total billable work. So of all three. Actually, we don't need that one at all. That's good. Now we can also take the period end date and we can put it in the filters down here. And you can see, I'm just gonna pick some arbitrary dates here just so you can kind of see what this looks like. So I filter it, it shows me the people that had non-billable work, what's going on, you know, well, that was 80. So, but I mean, you know, that's interesting. And now you can start to put other things on there. I mean, we can start to build, we can make another chart that shows my utilization, right? So this is a percentage. So let's do that, right? Well, let's insert a new chart here, a stack bar chart. And we can look at utilization in the values. And resource name. So now you can start to see, you know, where the utilization, of course, it's just the amount of data. So I have different components here, but you can start to see how well were they utilized. Now this is going to be an aggregate, but it's like, you know, 100%, so on and so forth, where are they at? And you can start to pull that data together and actually do something with that information that's interesting. And that was relatively simple. And you can make a pretty report, build out some dashboards, and publish this up to your SharePoint and O365 online, and you can actually have that shared out for folks to work with. Pretty simple to do. Doesn't take a lot of work, just takes a little bit of really creativity and understanding what people are chasing out of the information that's presented. So now you can start to see, like, so what does utilization do for people? Well, if you're a consulting agency or you're law firm, somebody who's chasing billables, now you could start to put targets in there, right? Your job is to hit 80% billable on an average week to week. Or my wife works in speech therapy, so one of the things they check there is acuity, which is basically how much time is spent working on paperwork versus how much time is spent working in actual patients and seeing as many patients as possible. And that's how they kind of start to get their numbers up, because that's their billables effectively. So people start to look at it from that perspective. So you can start to build out that information and figure out, are we hitting our targets? Why are we not hitting our targets? Where's the problems? And you can start to decide that and discern that from the data that you're presented with. And where are we off? Where are we not off? So on and so forth. So, I mean, Power BI can do a lot for you. Has very pretty, wonderful, modern, contemporary looking visualizations that's really easy to use. Again, you can hover over any of this stuff, drill through, click on, highlight, right? Change colors, so on and so forth. Make it look really web friendly, what you'd see on like a Google Analytics, for example. Similar looking styles. And you can also custom build your own visualizations. That takes quite a bit more effort, but you can do it. You can code it up and build in your own visualization. And there's a bunch of free ones out there or purchasable ones out there from different people that have done that already. So it's a pretty robust tool. Like anything else, though, it suits specific needs. I like this to present really well designed reporting and dashboarding only for, it's only going to be used in the web. No one's going to print it out because I don't, like I said, it doesn't print out well. Want it to use in the web. So I want, and all the high interactivity, the high ability to click, drill through, play with, and understand the data. But key is making it look nice and making sure the data is not out of context, because that's the other thing is I've seen a lot with folks that they get really excited about the visualization, but once it's there, they don't know what it means. So it needs to be contextual and usable to whoever's looking through it to be able to actually understand and pick through the information to make good decisions off of it. I'm not saying what I have here is something that you could actually make decisions off of. It's just kind of how quick it could be, how quick things can be put together with data that's right there. And like I said before, this is immediate. So if I were to go change something, I could hit refresh and it refreshed everything within seconds, because this is a direct pull from the database versus direct refresh all the data source, all the O data, which could take a long time, because I can guarantee you here, I'm using two different forms of time phase data. So it's several million rows that I'm looking at right now in that fast of time. So given that, you can do a lot of different, like I said, a lot of information. You have all these different visualizations, and Power BI is powerful in that regards. So generally speaking, that's kind of the whole presentation. We had it for about 45 minutes to an hour. So any questions, comments, things that you want to explore more, feel free to ask. We're here to help answer anything we have. And if not, we can follow back. You can always follow up. Feel free to email us, catch us up, hit us up anywhere, and we're happy to answer questions or go in a deeper dive about business intelligence and how it works for project management solutions and what you can do with it. What are some good ideas? What are some challenges you're possibly having? So, but I do appreciate everyone being attentive and paying attention for this presentation. I hope everyone got something out of it. And I'll let you guys have the rest of your afternoon back. Here we go. KPI are important, but what ones should you use in BI? That's a great question, Rick. So KPIs can get overloaded too. People like KPIs because they see the little indicators, and that's what they're looking at. KPIs really are what you're chasing is, if my threshold as an organization is our projects are supposed to be within 20% of our baseline or 10% of our baseline, and that's what it is. What we should be doing for an aggregation is we should be taking and looking at just a single indicator at top level saying, what's our project schedule status? Maybe break it down to maybe portfolio so you have just a little bit more granular. And you should be looking at bringing those as just major components to look across, and everybody knows what that means, and it's standard and specific, so you can kind of see what it comes across at. That's what I would have in a dashboard for myself, to be honest. And that's what I would like to see organizations get to. The challenge is the standardization, because a lot of people get very scared about, well, if it's calculated, if it's regimented like that, it's always going to be red. Well, that's probably true, because projects go south real fast, and that's okay, but it's about getting better. So you have to set your indicator high to ensure that people are getting what they want out of it and chasing down the optimal goal as opposed to obfuscating it and hiding it underneath reality. And as I said in the beginning, we will be sending this out and giving the presentation slide deck in a PDF version. And again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to follow up and deal with this on-premise.
Matt, I think there's another question in the question pane there.
Can on-premise Power BI or report server along with project server will work? So yes, you can do. So what I just did on a desktop, you could do with an on-premise project server, 100%. Now the key part is the publishing. So I believe you still need to have some sort of O365 to publish Power BI. The Power BI desktop application, you can go download it right now. It's absolutely free. But to publish it and share that stuff, it is a subscription. It is something out there that it is something that will be needed in your Office 365. So therefore, you need to have some place for it to talk to publish. It doesn't mean that the data actually has to be in the cloud. It could be on premise. And yes, the presentation will be made available via email. Pamela will be sending that out within this afternoon here, shortly after this. Great. Well, thank you guys. Really appreciate all the questions and listen to me talk about a passion of mine for 45 minutes. So Pamela, I think we can stop the recording.